Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
Yeah, boy.
Today we're going to be working on a beaded media wall. So here I'm just checking to see if the sander hits the profile, and it does. If the sander hits that profile, we'll flatten it. So I'm going to have to do it all by hand now. Here there were stutter marks from the routing process, so I'm just using a block and multiple different angles. It looks crazy, but it works. Again, using the block to flatten the joints, guy coat does help here. So this is very labour intensive, this job, all by hand.
No, God!
Again, rushed routing equals blowout. Normally you can sand out these issues, but these were too deep. Everything has to be done by a block. Everything has to be refined. Watch this. This works so well. Whenever I do this, bear in mind I put hardener with it. Some people think I don't put hardener with it. Make sure you put in hardener with PU. You could use water base here, but water base sort of raises the grain. If I can use solvent, I will. Solvent in a bottle, cut my pipette, stick it in there, bosh. This is brilliant. Remember this process. So directly injecting the PU primer into the routed out profile, this will save drying time. So I'm using a fast drying hardener there as well. So I'll do all of these, wait 30 minutes, and I'll give them a little sand back, and it's all nice and smooth and sealed. This is very annoying. Using this just to create a little bed, leaving it shallow, and I will 2K fill this. I like to remove any excess primer. I don't really like to prime over primer that shouldn't be there. Now onto these components, and I'll be sanding them, sanding any ripples out the profile, now using the PU that was in the bottle to seal these as well. I don't like sealer, it shrinks. I think you'd be surprised how well I can make this stuff look off of one prime, but because we've injected the primer, we've saved the prime there, in theory. So I'll break the edge, I'll fill 100% before applying primer to lock all of them sins under primer. So these are just being made up. They've got to have the edges sanded, spray break here, caulk, look for glue, sand back flat. So I'm going to show you my approach now. The tools I'll be using will be 180 Gold Flex, caulk, 120, 80 blade, a 120 on the block, a scraper, and some guy coat. Oh, and I got my Merker here as well. I've removed the mats, so when I sand back flat, it sands back flat. When you've got a spongy surface underneath, it will go like that. It won't sand back fast enough or flat enough. I like to use a little bit of guy coat over the joint to see what I'm doing. I'm just going to go with the 80 at first, just to level quickly. One setting down. So when you see this bit here, this is the low zone, this is the higher zone. I'll now switch to 120. I'll now just lick it over a bit of 320. I will get my scraper, just feel for glue. Get my blunted blade. Any glue in the corners, we'll remove it. Feel for any glue. Now I'll get my 120 and I'll just flick it into the corner, slide, and sort of just go like this, just to give it that sprayer's break. Gold Flex on the corner, slide it at multiple different angles, creating that nice roundness. Then we'll get onto the edges. It's up to you what you want to do with this. There's no harm in just getting a rough grit and just going like this. And then just go 320. Don't want to be bending up them lines on the edges. Give it a little break the edge. I've just got my block. I'm just removing that stutter mark quick. Go back to 180 Gold Flex. I'm really quite funny about my edge breaks. I like them straight and I like them smooth. Caulk, blunted blade, spare old Gold Flex. Nibble it, let's hopefully see if it's slowed it down. Yes. For MDF it's perfect. It bites right into that MDF. It doesn't sit as good on the primer. Rid of any of the residue. No need for water. I work clean now, so it's tidy later. Now we've got a very, very tight little gap in there, doing the job we need to do. So now I'm just gonna fill the joints, because when I apply my primer, so I'll use a PU primer, I like it to be fully prepped. So all of the filler, any cork is all trapped under the primer. Then I don't have to worry about it before top coat, and I'll make sure I'm filling very clean. Not getting it all over the place, getting it right to the corner and just filling it just in case there's any little pinprick holes. Fill the bottoms. I use a 2K filler because it dries fast, but it's more stable. Excess filler takes longer to sand off. There's a little bit of a bigger gap that I can see here. I'll leave it a little bit more prominent in the filler. But obviously when you're using 2K filler, you do need to work fast. We'll now tidy up because I don't like a dirty workspace. Now everything's cut back flat, I can put my mats back down. Once it's dry, I will now remove any of the filler. Sometimes it's actually faster just to scrape off any of the excess, and it saves the discs. 240 here. If you want the primer to sit really nice, always go over it with a 320. And then where there might have been a little bit of excess in the corners, you can just chop it out. Then in these corners here, just completely get rid of any of the filler that was there. Just remove the filler that's on here. I really do like a block because it just sands flat and stops you over sanding. Now the door's prepped perfectly. I'll take it into the spray booth and prime it. So I'm going to do some priming now. This is going to sound bad. I'm not going to wear a mask, otherwise I won't be able to talk over. I'm just raising my airflow up very aggressively now, and I'll spray towards the fan. So I'll be spraying the backs first. So I've got a SATA 1000 with a 1.8 tip. Fluid fully in, fan fully out, air fully out, 1.5 turn fluid. That don't feel too bad. What you want to do is make sure we get rid of all of the dust in the corner and on the edges of the door. So what I like to do is first go along the inside and build up that shaker out. I'm not fully pulling the trigger because I don't want those that overspray to go on the other side. So I'm just gently pulling the trigger. So when you're applying primer, what you want to see is it being covered nice and evenly. You don't want to see no line effect. I'm really strict, even off the first coat like here, I don't want to see no line effect. I don't mind seeing extra primer where we've just placed it into the corners. But if it's looking liney, you're applying it unevenly. And this is why, if you copy these gun settings here, and you raise your gun and you look at the coating go on, you will achieve what I'm achieving here. I like to make sure my edge coating is fully lit up, so there's no pitting, showing. Then what I'll do is, I'll move it over to here. So there's not a real heavy coating on there. So I'm going to give it a gel coat, but I'll just leave it up here for now, right under the airflow. Spray all of these doors, and then I'll spray them one more time, and that gives you a really nice build. The first one that I primed, and it's flashed off. And this is where we're going to get our nice coverage and build now. So now it's tacked off, we're going to do the same again. So the rails are all pit free, good coverage, a bit peely, but we've gel coated that primer there. So gel coating means prime it, let it dry, and hit it again. And on every single component you see here, I will do that. It builds coverage and build. It gives you enough primer on there for you to sand back flat and achieve a really good finish. Because we injected that primer into them profiles, look at them, look how smooth it is. So with these here, I'm just gently pulling the trigger and building that coating up. You could also have full fan, reduce the fluid and spray close and fast into that profile. That also works. Need to be careful with these sticks, they're way too big. But again, I'll just take my time. No excessive coating, just enough on there for me to do what I need to do. So that's all primed up, gel coated, so prime, dry, prime again. 2 primes on cornice. 2K filler, getting rid of these evil, bloody issues in these rows. Like, these actually took a lot of work. A lot of work. If you leave that, it will look absolutely rubbish. Everything will be blocked, everything will be refined with 320. Edges, completely, no pitting is allowed. It needs to be flat and smooth. My standards are very high. Here, using my blade, 320, and I'm sanding inside that profile, any last little rough bits. But the attention to detail from me is 100% every single time. You leave it rough in there, it looks rubbish. People could say, oh, he looks like plastic. No, cut my stuff in half, you'll see it's wood. It's just a job's been done properly on it. Anywhere that's rough, make smooth. Doesn't matter how you do it, just do it. Everything has to be sanded flat. Paint doesn't cover as much as you think it will. Removing any dust that could be held in there, so when I top coat, it's clean. So now we've gel coated both sides, we've got nice full coverage and nice build for us to sand back flat. So there's no pitting on the edges, no gaps. 240, 320, chamfered, little bit of wax, 320s, and I'll use different bluntnesses of 320 Gold Flex for different scenarios here. So with my block here, I'm just going to go like this, nice and evenly. Because it's sanding flat, it's leveling flat. I'll use a more worn 320 on the edge just to sand them aggressive scratches from a 240. Now the edges have been sanded, and I'll just smoothen the edges off there like that. I'll look for any missed filling or gaps, and I can see some here. That's where I'll just get my little bit of wax. There's still this grain effect here, and I want to get rid of that. So firstly, I'll get my block, and to level the edges nice and flat on the inside rail, I'll just use my block. It cuts back fast and efficiently. If there was any saw marks, it will level them as well. So once I've done that, I'll get my 320 ace on a block that is chamfered there, so this is not causing tram lines. I've also blunted this off, so this is smooth, rough, smooth. And I'm going to go right up to the shaker rail here and go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Analyze it. 6. And I'll do the same throughout now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can see this faint little lines that are in the MDF being removed and sanded flat. This is not a fresh 320. I'm just going to go into the corner like this and just do a circle motion. That's actually sanding deep into that corner nice, but with the circle motion and the blunted 320, it isn't too aggressive. 320, making sure my pad has no bits on it because that will cause pigtails. I don't like my sander too aggressive, so from main setting, 1, 2, 3. Don't stop moving that sander. And I'm just watching these shiny bits disappear. Analyze. Needs a little bit more. If your joints are a little bit raised, you could just get your block and just go like this, and it will level them. Now I'll around this flat. Gold flex and just make sure their edges are nice and smooth. Make sure these edges are blunted in. I'll lick my fingers a little bit so I've got something to grip to. Now I'm just going to refine sand here. Do your circle motions. It's very important. If you was doing a dark colour, I would have a severely blunted 320, and again, just work around. There's no harm sometimes in just padding it down by hand to get rid of any potential pigtails. You're better off using a hoover and wearing a mask. Now, there will be some compacted dust into the corners, so I'll just use my cork tool again, just to get rid of any dust. But I always like to get it up in this light. Look for any big dinks, because they can easily get missed. You're looking for shiny patches. That looks all right. So that now is sanded back fully flat everywhere. And that was just off one gel coat PU. So tidying the room takes about an hour. Now I'm making sure all my guns are clean, ready for top coat. So I'm using the Renner PU, Portland Stone Dark, which is a little green colour. This will be in 10% sheen. You'll see some rub through there, but because the Renner has such good build and coverage, you will not see that. So these take a little bit of work. Again, here I'm gently pulling the trigger, building up the coats. Like, I don't rush these. They take a while to actually spray. And this is where the slow thinners helps. If I just smash the paint on here, it will all be lipping up on the front, possible sags, and the coverage won't be as good. But multiple light layers of paint give the best result. I will say I do enjoy spraying these components. There's always nice satisfaction after all the hard work that's been put into them. Look at that. Beautiful. One prime. And you can see the paint sitting right. You see that lovely reflection? No patchiness. Multiple layers. Now switching to the pump. Remove all the dust. I'm using the 06134 tip here. I don't actually use that anymore. I use the 06114. Lovely atomization on this tip, but the 06114's fan pattern is just a little bit smaller, and I just prefer it. But nevertheless, we've got a beautiful finish there, and that's just the back. Make sure you get all that dust, all that compacting dust out of them profiles. You top coat over them, it looks absolutely rubbish, and your hard work has been pointless. PU dust holds a lot of static, so it's dry, but it can feel sticky because it's got a lot of static charge in it. Again, I like to build up the coats. Gives the best finish. If there was any bits, I would remove them with my dirt nip remover. Careful. Again, cornices, very fun to apply paint to. So I like one like this. I would have blown some air over it, now I'll hit it again. Cornices always look good. Now, onto oak. So the inside of this job is oak veneer. Now I'm just going to prep it up, sand it to 320, mark everything up so I know exactly where bits go. Get rid of any of that primer dust that was on them mats. I'll just put brown paper over it. Getting close and personal, the best way. this product is the money maker. This is Renner Acrylic PU, and it dries extremely fast. And look at that coming out the tin. It's not yellow, it's not orange like AC or PU. This is acrylic PU with 20% hardener, and I used to put about 30% thinners in, especially on the first coat. We want it to dry fast, and this stuff dries fast. Got to make sure I've got my Metallica plan. So just 50% overlap's all you need. Nothing too extreme. I like this product because it retains the grain. It doesn't make it look all lumpy and thick and horrible. It hugs that grain and makes it look more natural. Just sand it with Dead 320 and a 500. Blow out all of the grain. Brown paper on the floor is stopping any dust kicking up. .8 SATA. Final coat going down here, so just 2 coats and that's enough. Beautiful 10 sheen. This is the end result and all the spray work we've done. 1 prime, baby. When the attention to detail pays off. When I'm wrapping up, I like to use these gloves. Stops fingerprints getting everywhere. This plastic is good enough for transportation. I don't like to use too much foam. I don't like to use any foam. Too much cost and too much waste. Taking them back to the doors, no overspray. Skills. Remove any residue from the tape. Look at that, it's just the back. Lovely classic colour here. I'm very conservative with my wrapping. I'm not an eco warrior, but I like to do my bit as much as I can. Look at that. 1 prime, man. Renner is the king. It really is wicked. It's wicked paint. I don't get paid by this company. I'm just saying facts here. It's very soft to touch. It's a very soft sheen. It doesn't look like plastic. It really has class. Dad and John loading up. Time to fit. Voila. Job done. A little bit more traditional. Media wall. I love that the oak's showing there against that colour. Looks fantastic. A beautiful job.